Are you a pregnant mama? Are you currently going on maternity leave and you're wondering what is your pay going to be like, or you don't even understand all about the maternity pay in the United Kingdom? This is the right place for you to be. That's what we're going to be talking about in the video today. My name is Chinenye Eze and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For context basis, I am a nurse working in the NHS. I'm on a band 6 role. I work as a clinical nurse educator and I took about 37 weeks of maternity leave. My baby is currently 6 months, so I'm gearing towards going back to work. So I just thought this is the best time for me to do this video. So maternity pay in the UK is, we've got the statutory maternity pay, we've got the occupational maternity pay, and we've also got the maternity allowance. So these are the three categories of pay that you might be entitled to as a woman, as a pregnant woman, employee working in the UK who is planning to go on maternity leave. So if you want to find out which one that you are entitled to, you want to find out from your employer which one you're particularly entitled to, or you want to use the government calculator, which I'm going to be leaving the link in the description box so you can check which one you are eligible for. So for me, I was eligible for the statutory maternity pay, which is called the SMP, and the occupational maternity pay, which is called the OMP. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. In the United Kingdom, you are entitled to 52 weeks of maternity leave. So whether this maternity leave is paid or unpaid is dependent on your own particular case. So you are entitled to 52 weeks, no doubt about that. And out of that 52 weeks, 39 weeks out of it is being paid for. You're required to take at least 2 weeks of maternity leave after having your baby, regardless. So you might say, oh, I just came into the country, I can't afford to take 52 weeks. The law says that you must take at least 2 weeks. So if you're not going to take the whole 52 weeks because of your circumstances, you just must take at least 2 weeks. Now, the first thing is I'm going to start by defining the terms, because I'll be mentioning these terms along the line as we continue this video so that you would understand what I'm talking about. The first thing we'll talk about is the statutory maternity pay. Now, what is the statutory maternity pay? It is basically the pay that your employer is mandated by the government to pay you as an employee of them if you meet the required criteria and eligibility. Now, what is the eligibility? So you must earn at least £123 per week, and by April 2025 this year, it would be £125 per week. You must have worked with them continuously for at least 26 weeks by the time you were 25 weeks pregnant. So 15 weeks before your expected week of childbirth, that's basically when you're 25 weeks, you must have worked for them for 26 weeks. In simple terms, by the time you're 25 weeks pregnant, by the time you're about 6 months pregnant, 25 weeks pregnant, you must have worked for them for 26 weeks. So that means that by the time you got pregnant, you at least must have worked for your employer for 1 week. So if I got pregnant this week, I should have worked for my employer for at least 1 week before my start date. That makes it 26 weeks, isn't it? Before I can qualify for statutory maternity pay. Another thing you need to qualify to be able to earn your statutory maternity pay is that you must inform your employer. There's a required period of time that you are required by the law to inform your employer that you are pregnant, and you must show proof. So when should you inform your employer? At least 15 weeks before your expected week of childbirth, you should be informing your employer. So by that time, you will be 25 weeks pregnant. That's when you should be informing your employer. But if I were you, I would want to inform my employer as soon as possible, because there are different things that they will do to make your life easier whilst you're pregnant. There will be some reasonable adjustments that will be made. And of course, you don't want to be exposed. You don't want your baby to be exposed while you're pregnant just because you're trying to hide it and you don't want to tell your employer. So by law, you're required to tell your employer 15 weeks before your expected week of childbirth. So those are the eligibility. And how do you prove to your employer that you're pregnant? By 20 weeks, you go for a scan. We usually go for 2 scans, 12-week scan and 20-week scan in the United Kingdom. So those, by the time you go for your 20-week scan, your midwife would give you your B1 form, or anytime from the 20th week, you can ask your midwife to give you your MAT B1 form, and you have to show this, you have to give this to your employer. Now, you're only giving one MAT B1 form, so you have to keep it very well. What I did was that I took a scanned photo of it just for my own record. I never needed it anyway, but just in case you need it, you never know, you might need it. So you're only giving one copy, so you have to submit this one copy of B1 form to your employer so that they can start to process your maternity pay on time with the payroll. Otherwise, you might not get your pay on time. How much exactly is the SMP? The SMP is in the first 6 weeks, you would get 90% of your average weekly earnings before tax. That's what you get in the first 6 weeks. After which, the remaining 33 weeks, you would be getting 108, you will be getting 184.04 pound per week. So that is how much you get for your statutory maternity pay. So you can be paid up to 39 weeks for your statutory maternity pay. Now let's go straight into the occupational maternity pay. What exactly is the occupational maternity pay? So while the statutory maternity pay is mandatory for your employer to pay, your occupational maternity pay is not mandatory. So this is what the different employers call it different things, but for the NHS it's being called occupational maternity pay, and they pay this to their employees as long as they meet the following criteria. So what is the criteria? You must have worked with your employer for at least 12 months by the time you are 29 weeks pregnant. That's the simplest way I can explain it. So by the time you're 29 weeks pregnant, you must have worked for your employer continuously for 12 months. So this applies to NHS. So if you're working in the NHS, let's say you changed trust within the space of 12 months, but it was from one NHS to another NHS, it is still counted as a 12-month continuous NHS service. The third category of payments of maternity pay in the UK is what is called the maternity allowance. Now, what is the maternity allowance? It is basically the pay, it is just like the statutory maternity pay, but remember that the statutory maternity pay is being paid by your employers, but they get the money obviously from the government. This maternity allowance is also from the government. It's the same pay as the statutory maternity pay, but this time around it's not coming from your employers, it is coming directly from the government. So basically you have to go to any job center near you or check or browse and check about it and see how you can apply for the maternity allowance. And if you want me to do a video about this as well, I can kindly do this video if you leave it in the comment section for me, and I will find time to do this video. So straight into it. Maternity allowance is basically what you get. So it is also 184 pounds that you get from the government for taking time off to have your baby. So how do you become eligible for this? You have to be employed. So you are an employee, but you are not getting an SMP from your employer. You could qualify for this. So I will leave a calculator for you to check if you qualify for the maternity allowance. That is, if you do not qualify for the statutory maternity pay SMP with your employer. So if you're employed, you can qualify for the maternity allowance. If you are self-employed, you can qualify for the maternity allowance. If you have recently stopped work, you can qualify for the maternity allowance. If you do an unpaid job with your civil partner or your spouse, you can also qualify for a maternity allowance. So yes, just do well to use the calculator to be sure if you qualify. So it could either be the statutory maternity pay, the occupational maternity pay, or the maternity allowance. The next one I'm going to be defining is what is called the qualifying week. The qualifying week is the 15th week before your expected week of childbirth. So basically it is the 15th week. So I'm going to be showing you this calculator. So I downloaded this calculator from the RCN website, and this is the calculator that we will be using to explain the qualifying week. And the reason why I want to show us this calculator is because I would also be explaining how I was able to maximize how much I'm able to earn whilst on maternity leave. Now, if you look at this calculator, you will see that there are two lines, the red line and the gray line on the bottom. The red line started counting from 40 and it ended at 0, which simply means we all know that pregnancy is 40 weeks. So the end of your pregnancy to the beginning of your pregnancy. If you go to the gray line, it started from 0 to 40 weeks, which most of us are used to. That is how I count. So we usually count from day 0 to the 40th week, which is our expected week of childbirth. If you look at the red line, which is on top, scroll, keep looking, and you would see where it says 11, you will see where it says 15, and you will see where it says 22 to 15, which is in green line. So now in the 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. This is the 8-week period that is used to calculate your average weekly earnings for your SMP and your full pay for NHS terms and conditions. So this is a very, very important week in your pregnancy if you want to really maximize your pay, because it is this 8-week period that they will use to calculate your average weekly earnings. Remember when we're talking about what is SMP, what is OMP, we kept on mentioning average weekly earnings. So this is how they will calculate your average weekly earnings. Now, if you look at week 15, very, very important week. This is what is called the qualifying week. So it is 15 weeks to your expected week of childbirth. By week 15, you must have informed your employer that you are pregnant. By week 15, if your husband is going to be, or your spouse is going to be taking a paternity leave, they also must have informed their employer by this week 15. So if you want to maximize your pay, how I did mine was that if you look at the 8 weeks period before the week 15, so week 22, week 21, week 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, which basically in simple terms means that when your pregnancy is 18 weeks, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, up to the 25th week of your pregnancy, that is your 8-week period that is used to calculate your pay. Very, very important period. Now, what you need to do is that the mistake I made, I was thinking that the money that I earn between this 8 weeks period that I just mentioned to you, between 18 to 25 weeks, is what they are going to use to calculate my pay. But I forgot that in the NHS, we are being paid 4 weeks in arrears. That is, what I earn by the end of January is actually what I have worked for in the last 4 weeks. So that means that if you want to maximize your pay, what you would do is that you already know that your week 18 to 25th week of pregnancy is your 8 weeks period for calculating your pay. You will then count backwards by another 4 weeks. So now look at this calculator now. So I will count week 14, week 15, week 16, week 17. You see those 4 weeks, I will start doubling whatever I am earning in those weeks. And then I will continue counting. So we started from 15, right? 14, sorry. So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That is what you have to work very well within those weeks so that you will be able to earn a good pay. Now, not everybody can follow this rule because pregnancy is different, and I do not blame anyone who is not able to work as much as they want to in this period, because we all know pregnancy comes in different forms. Some people will be sick, some people would have different kinds of ailments, some people they will be told not to even work because of some risk and all of that. So if you fall in this category, please don't do this one that I'm saying. Just watch the rest of the video, because I don't want you to be at risk because I am saying that you have to work. Just do what you are able to do, and they would calculate your pay based on your normal earnings. But this advice is only for you if you are able to do it, because I know that it is not easy. Pregnancy is not easy. Even when I did it, it was so stressful for me, but I was able to do it because I had the grace to do it, because I was not sick and all of that. But if I was sick, I wouldn't have any choice but not to do it. So basically what I was doing was that every week I pick an extra shift. So I work as a clinical nurse educator. It means that I work Monday to Fridays. So that means that the only time I can pick extra shift is Saturday. So what I was doing was that every Saturday I pick a night shift as a bank shift, and I'm able to earn. So when they are calculating this money, they actually will add all your bank pay, your weekly enhancement, your weekend enhancement, night enhancement, all the enhancements that you usually do, that you usually get when you do all of this overtime shifts and all. It will all be added to the pay. So it's not just basically your basic earnings. So that's the good thing about it. So I was doing 1 week, one bank per week. So for that 8 weeks period that I told you about, I was doing 1 bank per week. So by the time they were going to calculate my money, the whole thing was a good sum because I was able to maximize my pay during this period. So that this is something that you can do if you want to maximize your pay. Remember that you are paid for 39 weeks during the 52 weeks period that you are entitled to have a maternity leave. In the NHS, the first 8 weeks you have your full pay, which is very good. And then the following 18 weeks you have half pay plus SMP or maternity allowance, whichever one you qualify for. But by the time they sum the two of them together, it must not be more than your regular pay. Do you get what I mean? So whichever one is lower is what they will go with. Now, in the next 13 weeks, you would only get your SMP or your maternity allowance, which is £184.03 every week. Then the last 13 weeks is not paid for. And after that, you're expected to come back to work. So when you finish your maternity leave, if you have been paid the NHS maternity pay, you have to come back to work, which is the occupational maternity pay. You have to come back to work. You cannot say, oh, I'm done with my maternity leave, I want to go to the private sector. No way. If you do that, you would have to pay back all that you have been paid. Now, the next thing that I did when I was I can't remember how many weeks pregnant I was then, but just about the time when I got my B1 form and I submitted to my manager, I informed I emailed payroll to say, could you kindly give me a rough estimate or idea of what my pay would look like whilst I am on maternity leave. So you have the right to ask for this, and they would kindly give you a breakdown of what it would look like. It might not be exactly that same figure, but it would just be around it, and you would be able to have a mental picture of what your pay would look like. Because to be fair, it's not really easy going to maternity, because you would earn a little bit lesser than what you normally would earn, depending on what your situation is. So it's just fair enough to know how much exactly you will be earning, so you can plan towards this. So when I sent them an email, they replied me and they gave me a breakdown of how much I was going to be earning. That gave me an idea of what I was going to earn. And to be fair, whatever they told me then is exactly what I'm earning now. So expect that it might just be around the same amount as well. Another thing you want to do is that you have to try and cut costs wherever possible. So for instance, with the RCN, I pay some monthly dues with the RCN. I inform them. So if you're with the RCN, or I believe that other other unions are also like that, you can let them know, and there's they would give you the maternity fee. I don't know what it's called. I'll put it on the screen what it is called. And so I think I'm basically paying very, very little amount. I don't think it's up to £2 how much I pay every month. So you might also want to do this also. It is very important to note that your maternity leave does not cancel your annual leave. So your entitlement, your annual leave entitlement still remains in the tax year, even though you have your maternity leave. So one way to also maximize your pay or maximize your leave or the time you spend with your baby is to utilize your annual leave. So for me, I think I had about 7 weeks of annual leave. I only used 1 week out of the annual leave, and 2 weeks, I took 2 weeks before my EDD, which was my annual leave. And then I'm also going to be taking 4 weeks after my maternity leave, which is also my annual leave. So basically, I have been able to maximize and elongate my maternity leave a little bit just with my annual leave. And of course, I will be getting my normal pay during my annual leave. So those are one of the few tips and tricks that I've got for you. Something else you can do is to spread across your maternity pay across the period that you would be going on maternity leave. Say for instance, you know that you're entitled to have 52 weeks of maternity leave, which is 1 year. And you know that you're only paid for 39 weeks. You can decide to say, okay, the total amount I'm going to be paid for 39 weeks is £12,000. You can say, payroll, could you kindly just spread across my money over 12 months period? So that way you don't only earn for 39 weeks and after 39 weeks you're broke for another 13 weeks. No. So you just know that you're earning basically almost around the same amount throughout the period of maternity leave. And that was what I did. So I only took 37 weeks, like I said, and what I did was that the money was spread across the 37 weeks. So all through the period of maternity leave, I'm basically earning almost the same amount every month, which I think is good. It's not like I'm earning very good money at some point and later on I'm not earning anything again. You could maximize your pay as well as also help to get you back to work is utilizing your keep in touch days. So there's something called the keep in touch days, which is basically you can have up to 10 keep in touch days going to work whilst you're on maternity leave or towards the end of your maternity leave, just to get yourself refreshed again, get yourself adapt back to work, and then get your trainings done. So keep in touch. They're usually very flexible. You can choose how many hours you want to go for, just discuss with your manager. They put that on your time rota and you come in to work. So that keep in touch days, they pay you your the same amount that you would have earned if you had gone to work normally, and it would be added to your pay. So I feel like that's another extra change for you to have added to your pay. So that's the end of the video. If you've got any questions, kindly leave it in the comment section and I will be happy to answer your questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. If you have watched this video up to this time and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Kindly hit the subscribe button. There's always a new video every week. We post every Monday on this channel. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to post on Monday this week, and that's why the video is just coming to you today. But thank you very much for watching, and I would see you in my next one. Bye.